Hello, everybody. Welcome to On the Line. It is Tuesday, September 26th. I cannot believe.
I know. Crazy.
It's the end of September. It's literally the last week, and then October, and then November, and then December, and then before you know it, it's going to be the new year. But I'm Olivia Ekpone, joined with Ashley Tishins this week. It's been an exciting weekend of cross country. We're going to dive into an intense team matchup from the Ocean State Invitational, talk about some big performances from the Bowdoin Cross Country Classic and Roy Griak. We'll also discuss some athletes that have kind of made some waves at this point in the season. We're looking forward to seeing what they do as the season progresses. And we're going to also analyze some key storylines going ahead into the FSU Invitational, which is our national meet of the week. But Ashley, how was your weekend, like, as a whole? I know you've been super busy watching marathons. It's like marathon season as well, too.
I know, that's right. I was up at, I think, 2 a.m. watching the entirety of the Berlin Marathon, doing stuff for Flow Track there. So I'm a little tired, but it was definitely worth it. I mean,
You saw another world record. You saw a lot of world records within the last month.
I'm trying to think, like, what is that now? World record number 3? That after Prefontaine, where Mondo broke the pole vault world record, and then we saw a women's 5K record. I mean, I guess maybe I'm like the good luck charm.
You're the good luck charm, yes.
You know, when I'm there, when I'm watching, you're going to break a world record.
I love it. I love it. So let's go ahead and dive into our top key. I think the top matchup, I think, so far this season, we had Union Catholic versus Saratoga Springs at the Ocean State Invitational. Kind of an upset. I don't know about what your thoughts are, but why is it so important at this point of the season, this matchup that we have seen, especially when we're looking at the national scale?
You know, looking at, the Ocean State Invitational, I think this was one of the, if not the biggest storylines to take away from this weekend of cross-country racing. If you're looking at this, right, on the girls' side, you have Saratoga Springs, who is competing. They're currently ranked, I believe, U.S. number 7 in our MileSplit 50 girls team rankings. And, they have a history of winning. They won at XN last year. They're the defending champions there. They're always pretty dominant throughout the entire stretch. But then you have Union Catholic come in here, and they take down Saratoga Springs, beating a top 10 team in the nation. Now, if you're looking at how they were able to accomplish this, they scored 32 points, and then Saratoga Springs took second with 45 points. Union Catholic went 2, 5, 6, 13, and 23 overall, and averaged 18-20 there. And they're led by a freshman, Liv, which I think is insane. They have Paige Shepard, who's turning out to be just a huge star for them. She finished second behind Saratoga Springs top runner Emily Bush. And I think that's really kind of the key for them. And maybe, a good key, having that, kind of that younger group there, while you also have some more experienced athletes like Peyton Hollis and stuff still in that mix as well. And I think this kind of shows that, like, Union Catholic's going to be much scarier than we expected.
I know, and right now, just based on the rankings that we had, Union Catholic isn't ranked.
No.
Like, they're on our honorable mention. Union Catholic, just looking at the New Jersey side as a whole, are ranked number 1, and the fact that, like, over Saratoga Springs, as you mentioned, NXN champions last year, but they have the history of having that depth year after year after year after year. So this is kind of a season where I'm, like, curious to see how Saratoga Springs is going to bounce, just knowing that they have Emily Bush. They have a couple of veterans, I guess you can say, on their team, but they're looking to almost, like, rebuild. And it's really fascinating to just see Union Catholic come away with this win, with a solid win, of course, as you mentioned, 18-20 average. Saratoga Springs finished with an 18-33. Paige Shepard is a name that we know from the AAU Junior Olympic Games, and also another freshman in that mix is Kaylee Kaiser. And so she was 13th overall with an 18-36 on that course. You mentioned Peyton Hollis, and then Courtney Kaiser, and then Ella Solorzano, I believe is how you pronounce her last name. So those were your 5 finishers for Union Catholic, and I was just super impressed to see them come away with this win. And just kind of shifting towards the boys race as well, just kind of a side note, like, the Union Catholic boys look strong too. New Jersey number 2, US number 9. They also won the championship race and completed the sweep, which I thought was fascinating to see both the boys and the girls do great. But Jimmy Wischusen, gosh, excuse me, Jimmy, ran his first race since May.
Yes.
Coming back from injury, and he finished second overall with a 15-12 and was just 6 seconds behind the champion Paul Bergeson. And Union Catholic finished second, 13th, 25th, 43rd, and 44th overall. So I think having Jimmy kind of being absent last year kind of push Union Catholic to really elevate themselves to this another level. But I'm happy to see Jimmy is on the cross-country course and just running well.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest takeaway here is, I mean, I think it's always pretty well known that over the past couple of years, like Union Catholic boys, those are going to be, that's going to be a squad you really want to watch out for when in terms of, looking forward to nationals. I think we need to be like, hey, we need to throw the girls in this conversation as well.
Exactly. So we're definitely going to have some changes on the MileSplit 50 rankings, which will be dropping very, very soon. But another great race that we saw was the CBA boys team showed complete dominance at the Bowdoin cross-country classic. I don't know why I said Catholic. Union Catholic still in my brain. But Ashley, what was like the biggest take? What can we take away from this major performance that we saw?
CBA is always going to be a team on the boys' side where you go in, they're always going to be in that national conversation. But I think we saw here that, they're probably even better than what we already expected. They coming into this race, they were the 8th ranked boys team nationally, and they definitely lived up to that hype there. They went 1, 2, 5, 7, and 9. They put their entire top 5 within the top 9 places of that race, which is just absolutely phenomenal. And they posted the second fastest team average ever at the Bowdoin cross-country course, and that was 16:07.8. That's pretty remarkable again. And they were led by their frontman Joe Barrett. He won the race overall with a 15:50. And looking at some of the history behind this race, shout out to the New Jersey MileSplit guys there. they dug into a little bit more about just how much this performance means. Right. The only team that has averaged faster on that course is FM from back, I believe, in 2013.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
They averaged 16:02 on that course at the NXN New York Regional. And then another reference to looking back at CBA and their history when they won NXN back in 2012. That team averaged only 16:24 on that course. Today in 2023, CBA averages 16:07. So I think we could be in for a special CBA season.
I agree. And I think what's interesting, you mentioned all top 5 of the runners finished in the top 10. What's even more impressive to me there is they had a 29-second spread.
Yep.
That is dangerous. Super dangerous, so fast. And even just comparing like the results from back in 2013 when FM went 16:02, and here they had a team average of 16:07. I'm thinking wow, they really just elevated themselves to a whole nother level and really put down a really strong performance. And as you mentioned, back in 2011 when CBA won NXN, they averaged 16:24, as you mentioned. So the fact that they went from 16:24 from that team that won NXN to now 16:07,
it's pretty impressive.
That's quite impressive. Plus I'm just 29-second spread. That is ridiculous. And I think just looking at Joe Barrett, as you mentioned, he won. That was the 3rd fastest time by a CBA runner in course history. And that also earned a 189 speed rating. But also Jack Falkowski was just strides behind him for second with a 15:54, the number 4 all time by a CBA runner as well. So just knowing that these athletes are putting down fast 5K times on a really tough course, breaking through barriers, especially when you're looking at these team averages, keep CBA on your radars.
Agreed.
Guess what Ashley and I are trying to say. But also in regards to that, Roy Griak took place.
Yes.
That is a big meet, has the history of just putting some really great competitors on the line, but also putting some fast performances as well. But I think the big name out of this race was Clay Shively, our guy.
Yes. Clay Shively out of Wichita Trinity Academy in Kansas, a senior NAU commit. I think all of us knew that Clay Shively was going to be really, really good this year in cross country. Last year, he was good, but he wasn't, racing at any of those, at Foot Locker, any of those types of meets. And, I think based on what we had seen from him on the track, he was almost a sub-4 miler there. We knew he was going to be good, but I don't know if we thought he was going to be this good. He goes to Roy Griak, and he wins the race, 15:23.9 for 5K, a 194 speed rating, breaks the decade-old Roy Griak course record of 15:30.8. Pretty solidly there, shaving about 7 seconds off that mark. And again, though, too, I think the other thing to take away from this is, Shively won the race, but there were 2 other guys behind him that also broke the previous course record. Right? That's Sam Scott in 2nd, and then Robert Mature in 3rd. They finished 2nd and 3rd in 15:25 and 15:28, which earned them 193 speed rating. So I mean, Roy Griak, I'm looking through all these results, and I'm like, goodness gracious, like, what are they feeding these kids?
Yes. I feel like Clay Shively's on a whole different level this year. And I've had a chance, we've been watching him. Like, this isn't the first time we're mentioning Clay this year. We talked about him a few weeks ago as well. But I think the key thing is his mentality going into his senior year. He mentioned during his post-race interview with MileSplit that he felt last year at this race that he got caught up in the start, and he felt like he paid for it later in the race. And so this year he just wanted to take it more patient, waited for his time over this weekend to really put down something fast. And the fact that he was the first boy to break 15:30 on this course and was able to lead 2 other guys behind him just shows the talent that he has. But also he's in this mindset now, Ashley, where he's like, I'm going for an NXN title. Like, he said that a couple weeks ago, that he is looking to be a national champion. And right now, with the times that he's posting and earning the speed ratings that he's getting and facing a lot of great competitors early on, I feel like it's just giving him that boost as he just kind of moves forward in that season.
All right, now that we're throwing that out there, I need your opinion here.
Okay.
Who do you think right now is the early front runner to win that boys NXN title?
Oh gosh. I feel like as we're talking about Clay Shively, but like Clay Shively is just, but you also have Daniel Simmons in this.
Yes. Personally, I feel like I'm still going with Danny Simmons. He hasn't shown me anything right now that's indicating that he's going to get beat at NXN, and he finished second there last year. So
yes,
that's going to be my choice. But hey, I think Clay could definitely be top 5, top 2.
Top 5. You know what, Clay? I got your back. I'm going with Clay Shively here. I just think that this guy, I feel like, is a lion. Like, he's hungry.
Are we making another nickname here? Like we have.
Wait, now we got to. Oh gosh, Corey. Oh, it's just like Corey comes up with the nicknames. I don't know. Like, I feel Clay is hungry. Not saying Daniel Simmons isn't.
Yeah.
But the fact that I have repeatedly watched Clay Shively's interviews, and each one is like the end goal is NXN.
To win. Yeah.
And I'm hungry for it. And I'm making sure I'm setting up my season to do that. He's just ready to pounce on the prey right now.
Okay.
So Clay the Lion, I guess.
I see that's your early prediction. We'll see if it pans out.
That's my early prediction, yes. So outside of the Roy Griak, we've also had some incredible matchups over the season. And I feel like just kind of reflecting back on Woodbridge, right? Like that course, Woodbridge itself is a meet where people go to run fast times.
Yeah.
Yes, there is great competition. However, the point is to go out there and put something fast on a 3-mile course. Since then, there have been some matchups with some athletes, and I want to know if we're coming back to reality. Almost in a sense of like, hey, yes, Woodbridge is a fast time, but let's put you on a 5K course or a course that's a little bit more challenging. What does that look like? So, Ashley, what matchup for you kind of just like, maybe, I don't know, shifted gears, but like what were some matchups that we saw from Woodbridge that have now taken place since then?
Yeah, you know, like, I think the biggest matchup, and I think we both kind of agreed on this point here, of guys that raced at Woodbridge and then matched up again this weekend is JoJo Jordan of Olympus in Utah and Evan Noonan of Dana Hills in California. You know, Noonan won that boys race.
Yes.
At Woodbridge, you know, an impressive race from him, a 194 speed rating there, and JoJo Jordan was there as well. But then you have them go to the Bob Furman Cross Country Invitational this past weekend, and you see the roles reversed a little bit. You have JoJo Jordan, you know, he wins this race here in 14:55, I believe, and then Noonan was just behind him in second place there. If you're looking, I know you said that like Woodbridge, that's where you get your fast times now, coming back to reality with the 5K. But if we're looking at this, the meet like course history here, those times were insanely fast for that race. You know, only 2 other guys have gone faster at Bob Furman than Jordan and Noonan did this past weekend, and that was Luke Pasquedra in 2007, and then the now U.S. marathoner Connor Mance back in 2014. So I think it is an indicator that like, I almost like Woodbridge has kind of been, that was like a springboard for them, you know, they get that confidence. Like, I think sometimes having one of those really fast races, it's more of a confidence booster. And then when you know, go back to that 5K distance or maybe aren't on as fast of a course, you can still run like really well. Yeah,
I agree. We saw them both compete. And as you mentioned, Jordan got 4th in that race, 13:57. Evan Noonan went 13:41. Like, that's over a 10-second gap there that Noonan had on Jordan. And the fact that now, like, the roles kind of flipped a little bit, like, Noonan was still within striking distance. He only lost by 0.7 of a second, so it wasn't like a complete blowout.
Yeah.
But the fact that JoJo Jordan was able to come up with that win, do you feel like, just kind of looking at the season that JoJo is having, where do you think this kind of alludes to as the season kind of unfolds? Knowing that, hey, like, he fit like top 5 at Woodbridge, fantastic, but now you took down the champion that won that really, really fast course. Now you're running, 5K. What do you think kind of helps as we move forward into the rest of the season?
Yeah, I think he just has to, I think these are going to be good confidence boosters for him. Looking at, his resume back from last year in 2022, his fastest 5K time was 15:12, which he ran at Garmin Running Lane, which is historically a very fast course. That course there in Huntsville is one of the fastest courses in the nation. Now he goes to somewhere like Bob Furman in Idaho, and he runs a 14:55. So I think, kind of comparing some of those performances, and again, this is an early season performance, whereas that 15:12 at Garmin Running Lane came at the very end of the season. I think he's got to be thinking, this is my time to shine,
Yes, exactly. Now, just a side note before we move into our next segment, I feel like we just have to talk about Elizabeth Leachman, because what on the line episode would it be if we don't mention the talented individual that we're seeing? Ashley, this weekend, she breaks the sophomore class record at the Hoka McNeil Invitational with the 16:30 5K performance. This ties her for number 16 all time. And what's mind-blowing to me is it is mid-September.
Yes.
Now, what can we take away from Elizabeth Leachman? Because this is like the 4th race where she has earned speed ratings over 150. No other athlete has done that.
Yes.
Now, just a couple weekends ago, she lost to Jane Hedegren, but again, it's kind of a similar instance where it's like Evan Noonan versus JoJo Jordan. Like, it was literally
like right there.
Right there. Like, it wasn't a complete blowout. But with Elizabeth and how she is right now, do you think she's the heavy favorite for winning a national title?
Oh, that's so tough, because I'm inclined to say that I'm still a very big Jane Hedegren fan, and I think she will win a national title. But the way Leachman obviously is running right now is, it's the one word to describe it is historic.
Right.
I know we had some feet on the ground at Hoka McNeil this past weekend, and just, talking with them and hearing their reflection on seeing her run, they were comparing her to like watching like, younger Caitlin Toohey runs.
Yes.
Like, this is the type of athlete that we're talking about here. Like, she's definitely got that pedigree. There's something going right there for her, and I think, with these performances that she's been having each and every week so far this season, I think with each performance, people are getting more on board with the idea that, okay, Leachman's the real deal.
It's almost scary. Like, I'm thinking, because we've had conversations about this in the office, and one of the individuals told Ashley and I, like, she's never seen Elizabeth Leachman in person, was able to watch her run for the first time, and she's like, that girl was insane. Like, just watching her run was remarkable and memorable. And she's never met Elizabeth, never seen her compete. So the fact that she's now telling me this at a Hoka McNeil Invitational where she completely destroyed the competition.
She won by, a minute and 18 seconds, which is, and I guess, really good competition too. And, again, the conditions, weren't great either. It was, like, insanely muggy, super humid. Not completely
hot.
Ideal. It was hot and humid.
That's all they were saying was it was so hot that day,
So
the humidity here is just ridiculous.
Yes, I think the moral of the story here is Elizabeth Leachman is the real deal.
It's not a fluke. Like, I remember the first performance that she had that was over a 150, and I was like, okay, cool.
Yep.
Then the second one happened, I was like, okay, back to back. All right.
Now
third one, she ran against Jane. I'm like, that girl held her own, and Jane is, I feel, like a national contender, like, to win a title. And the fact that she did this again and earned I believe a 160 or 161 speed rating, the first girl to do that this season is like, and it's early. Like, it's still mid-September. Like, we still have all of October, all of November. Nationals will be first week of December. So I'm hoping that she can just continue this momentum.
That's going to be the key, right, is if you can continue this, going on. Like, she's already has a good amount of races underneath her belt, and obviously she's done incredible things, and I just really hope that continues on for the next few months.
Absolutely. All right. We got our Elizabeth Leachman segment in. Let's move on to the athletes to watch as the season moves forward. Now, these are some individuals that I feel like are starting to turn my head a little bit. I'm like, okay, I recognize your name now, and you have me, I'm paying attention at this point. Yeah. So I think I'm going to kick this off first. I'm going to start, I have 2 girls and a guy. So let's talk about the girls first.
Sure.
One athlete, I know Max is going to be very proud of this one. Caitlin Rope from Salina Central. She's out in Kansas. And I feel like the defending champion for cross country, she's clocked her 3rd straight win at the Rim Rock Classic. And she set a season's best of 17:33. This also equaled a 145 speed rating. And I've had a chance to just kind of watch her season unfold a little bit more. And like I mentioned, this is someone that's, my wheels are turning, right? Like, her first race of the year was a 17:41 at the Great Bend Invitational. Then September 14th, she ran at the Bluler Invitational, clocked another 17:41. And here at the Rimrock Classic, she drops that time down to a 7:33, her 3rd straight win on 5K courses. So I'm just looking forward to seeing how she's going to fare when she toes the line against some really strong competition, because the fact that she is putting out these big performances already without much push, I think is really big. And another athlete, speaking of Jane Hedegren, Lily Alder, who actually goes to Timpview, so Jane Hedegren's teammate, she won the Twilight Invitational with a 17:15 5K performance and was the only girl to break 18 minutes on that course and earned a 140 speed rating. I was like, oh, we have another athlete from Timpview.
Yes.
Timpview, my eyes are out on you guys right now. So doing great things out there in Utah. So those are my top 2 ladies. Ashley, for you, who's your top girl that you're just like, okay, she's putting out some big times. I'm looking forward to seeing how she does as the season continues.
Yeah. This athlete here, I know all of us at MileSplit are huge fans of this athlete.
Yes.
And she's up in the Northeast, so a lot of times, she's not really getting in those really fast 5Ks until toward the end of the season. Mm-hmm. But that has to be Ruth White out in Orano, Maine. She's a senior there. She won the Manchester Invitational this past weekend in 17:20 for 5K and beat the previous course record by 15 seconds, which that's a pretty big margin there.
Yeah.
Got a 147 speed rating there. You usually don't see her on many speed rating lists. She's going to some of these smaller meets in the Northeast, but she's always a strong competitor. I remember we all got to meet her for the first time last year at Champ Sports Cross Country Nationals.
I love Ruth.
And
she's amazing.
She was so lovely.
Yes.
And, you could tell she's like such a fierce competitor as well. And, she placed 17th overall there in her first time at a national meet. So I definitely think that, looking at this, 17:20 is also it's a 7-second PR for her in her career. So I think if she's running that right now in September, that she's going to be a factor moving into the fall.
Absolutely. I completely agree with Ruth. Just an incredible athlete as she is as a human being. She's just super sweet. So let's kind of switch gears. Let's talk about the boys now. This guy's from Colorado, from Chaparro High School. He's a senior. Brennan Draper. Now, I kind of was taking a deeper dive into his resume for the 2023 cross-country season. He was 6th at Liberty earlier this month, but then he was able to bounce back with a victory at the Dave Sanders Invitational, where he clocked a season's best of 15:22. And I feel like this could really be a breakout season for him, Ashley, because last year he went 15:06 to set a personal best before he finished 25th at the Colorado 5A state championship. So the fact that he's just like dropping some time down, and the fact that he competed at Liberty against some really stiff competition as well, I feel like this is just continuing that momentum that he's potentially someone that could really stand out in the state of Colorado, and I think he's just doing amazing things already. So for you, Ashley, who's your top guy?
All right, I know when I say the school Mercer Island, I think I'm sure what comes to mind, at least for you and I, is Sophia and Victoria Rodriguez.
Yes.
But I want to talk about their top guy on that team, and that's Owen Powell. And, right now on the boys' side there, he's truly one of the better juniors in the entire country. Mm-hmm. He just ran 14:46 to win the boys' race at the MOOC XC Invites. He got a 183 speed rating there. That's his first time under 15 minutes. And, 14:46 is no joke, you know, no matter where the course is. And so I think he's definitely someone to keep an eye on. You know, looking at his resume in the past, he ran 4:07 for the mile on the track last year as a sophomore, which is pretty insane as an underclassman. So I think he's going to be someone we're going to keep an eye on moving forward.
Got our eyes out for you guys. So keep up the great work. Again, this cross-country season, I feel like it's just starting, but it's already have, like, blown my mind away with just the strong performances that we're seeing so early. So speaking of, like, blowing your mind away, there were some surprising results that came from the weekend that we can't, like, not continue the show without mentioning it. So Ashley, what was the big surprise for you from the weekend?
Sure. I know we kicked off the show talking about this a little bit. I do think, you know, Saratoga Springs, you know, finishing behind Union Catholic in that race at Ocean State is a bit of a surprise, a bit of an upset there. You know, they were ranked number 7 in the country. You know, they only got beat by, you know, it was a pretty small margin, only about 13 points, and they still put 3 in the top 6. But, you know, if we know anything about Saratoga Springs, it's that I feel like they come away clutch when it really matters, you know, whether it's states, whether it's, you know, NXN regionals, NXN, like I don't think this is any cause for concern or any reason to really count them out yet. You know, they still have a strong, proven leader in Emily Bush, who we just saw on the screen there. You know, she still took home that win in 17:32 this past weekend. That was an all-time PR for her. So I think, I mean, yes, it's a surprise, but I still wouldn't count them out yet.
Yes, I totally agree with you. Mine is a little interesting. Because I feel like it's just interesting to me. Okay. So there were 2 athletes in the state of Pennsylvania. You had Ryan Pajak of Ringgold and Drew Griffith of Butler. They ran at the PIAA Foundation Invitational with muddy conditions. What's mind-blowing to me is they ran the exact same time in 2 separate races. How often do we see that?
It's kind of rare.
Very rare. Exact same time. Now, I think for me, what's surprising about this, not the fact that they literally ran the same time, but just thinking about Drew Griffith's season last year, where he is now. Drew was 8th at Champ Sports Nationals. Ryan, I got 12th last year, and I feel like because of the times that they ran under the same conditions, not against each other, Ryan won the 2A race, Drew won the 3A race. I really feel like this just put Ryan in a different level. And the reason why I say that is because if you're running similar times to Drew Griffith right now, who's a really phenomenal standout athlete from the state of Pennsylvania, and the fact that you're right there with him, like, you're bound to think that this is fantastic, right?
Yeah. You know, I think too, like, Ryan probably is, like, a little underrated. Like,
yes.
I think we've already seen I mean, just looking at what he's done this season, he's already been, I'm trying now to pull up his resume here real quick. I mean, he went 15 flat at the Mingo scrimmage, which I think he got a pretty high speed rating for that one, and then just ran 15:48. And again, I think he's probably a little underrated, but I think you're right. Like, if you're running the exact same time as Drew Griffith, that means you're going in the right direction.
Yes.
And 2, I mean, they ran that in, like, I don't know if you've seen some of the videos from that race.
It was muddy.
It was insane. Like,
nuts.
People were sliding down this hill. Like, they were falling, but they did good. And, you know, I do think, I mean, another funny note, they're both going to Notre Dame now next year, so
things just got interesting.
Yeah.
Which is super spectacular. So these are our surprising results from the weekend. Now, we're going to move on to what I'm now considering my favorite segment of the show. I know Corey and I started the stock up, stock down, but now we're going to just say who has their stock up from the weekend. You already mentioned my girl very briefly, but I'm going to dive into Sofia Rodriguez for a moment here. As we know, she's just had phenomenal accolades, performances. Her resume just keeps building. As a middle schooler, she is a world age group record holder in the distance events, and now she moved from Pennsylvania. She's on literally the West Coast and competes now for Mercer Island, and the freshman put a 5K performance together that was like, wow. She ran a 16:49 at the Moo Cross Country Invite, and she was the only girl that day to break 17 seconds on the Alderbrook golf course, and her sister finished right behind her too, so they just go 1-2. But the fact that Sophia is doing amazing things already, Yeah, I'm just looking forward to the rest of the year.
That was like I think it was the third fastest 5K time ever for a freshman. So
wild.
Crazy. So she's already off to a great start like I think we expected.
Yes. All right, Ashley, I'm going to kick it off to you. Who also has their stock up from the weekend?
Stock up for me. I think I have to talk about Rachel Forsyth out in Michigan at Ann Arbor Pioneer. And I think we really need to take a moment to give her major kudos.
Let's take this moment.
Yes, recognize her for all that she's already accomplished this season. You know, her resume is pretty spectacular. She is currently on a streak of 4 straight sub 17-minute 5K performances. She just ran a new PR of 16:36 over the weekend at the Jackson Invitational. You know, looking at those sub 17 performances, she's gone 16:44 twice and then 16:59 one other time to round out all those sub 17 efforts. And then, you know, that 16:59 that she ran at the MSU Spartan Invitational, that got her a 153 speed rating, which that's no joke.
Yes.
And so, you know, I think Forsyth is going to be someone that we got to look out for as we're going into, you know, national season and stuff. You know, she's out there in Michigan, but I think, you know, we can't forget about her.
We cannot.
No.
And I'm excited to see as her season unfolds. It, like you mentioned, already off to a really, really strong start. So for me, I'm going to highlight a young, talented individual from again, another one from Northeast New Hampshire, Byron Grievous. At the Manchester Invitational, he clocked a 15:03 for 5K, and he broke the course record, which was actually previously held by Aiden Cox from last year's race, and he went 15:20. So the fact that you dropped 17 seconds, and just to kind of break this down for you, Aiden Cox actually ended up qualifying for NXN last year, was an All-American at New Balance National Outdoors in the mile and the 2 mile. So the fact that you've already accomplished that looks like a very bright future for you. So, yeah, Byron just really blew my mind away from the Manchester Invitational. So, Ashley, how about for you? Who's another athlete?
Yeah, going back to Roy Griak for a minute, I want to talk about Robert Matura. He's out of Roseville Area High School in Minnesota. You can see him there up on the screen. He is just to the left of Sam Scott there in the middle. He takes third at Roy Griak, runs 15:28 for 5K. And again, one of those 3 guys to go under that previous course record of 15:30 that had stood for 10 years. Earns a 193 speed rating. A little bit more about Robert, you know, as I'm doing a deep dive here. He's only a junior, and, you know, that puts him off to a great start for this 2023 season. Prior to Roy Griak, he posted a 15:04 5K PR at the Eden Prairie Metro Invites, and then he's also coming off a pretty strong track season from 2023 where he ran 8:59 for 2 miles, and so this has to give him confidence. You know, like, this is a breakthrough performance. If you're up there running with, you know, athletes the caliber of Clay Shively and Sam Scott, who are both, you know, ranked athletes, I think you have to be thinking, all right, like, I'm feeling pretty good about myself. Like, this is a good start, and I think we're going to have to keep an eye out for him in that Heartland region going forward.
Love that. So now we're going to switch gears. We're going to talk about teams. Don't go too far. So I feel like we've talked about this team almost every week. It's almost like an Elizabeth. It's like an Elizabeth Leachman segment. So we're gonna have the Harriman segment right now. I feel like they keep showing up, Ashley, in a ridiculous way. And at the Bob Furman Invitational, they destroyed the competition by scoring 59 points and finished with a 15:34 average. Their top 5 finished in the top 20. Again, the spread, 15 seconds. I'm like, yo, what are y'all doing right now? All 5 boys in 15 seconds of each other? They finished 7th, 11th, 13th, 18th, 20th, led by William Stedman, who went 15:26. So 15:26 plus 15 seconds, that just shows you where this team is right now. And they're just continuing to blow our socks off at this point.
Agreed. Again, I think we just need a special Harriman segment.
Week. Elizabeth Leachman segment every show. We're set at this point, which is awesome. Yeah. So who's your girls team that has their stock up?
I have to give a shout out to Lucas Lovejoy out here in Texas, and I think they continue to show that they deserve to be in the national consideration on the girls team side. They absolutely dominated at the Cowboy Jamboree this weekend in Oklahoma, scored just 33 points, which is pretty crazy. You know, a very dominant performance there. They put their entire top 5 within the top 11 in that race. You know, they opened up our season at number 16 on our girls team rankings, but, you know, I would expect them, after what we've already seen from them so far, to maybe move up those rankings. They're currently, if we're looking at, you know, our cross-country team scores database, they're currently have the 3rd best team average in the country, and then just based on scores alone, they're the 3rd, you know, best team for team scores. So I also have to give a shout out here to Julio Ramirez from MileSplit, Texas, because I think last week we were having a conversation about who the best teams in Texas are right now on the girls' side, because obviously you have a lot of big powerhouses.
Yeah.
And he was like, I think Lucas Lovejoy's up there. Like, they're good. And I was like, oh, really? I guess because sometimes you think about, like, you have Flower Mound, you have South Lake Carroll, like, all those really, really good teams. But Lucas Lovejoy's the real deal.
Okay, you heard it here first. So that kind of wraps it up for the stock ups. And now let's move on to our final segment of the show, the national meet of the week, which is the FSU Invitational, also known as their pre-state meet. And Ashley, the top 2 storylines from this meet is ridiculous. So shout out to Brandon Miles, who gave me the lowdown, because I was like, Brandon, tell me what I need to know. I think for us, the matchup between Patrick Kuhn and Josh Ruiz is going to be a show to just look out for.
Yeah, so that's what I'm most intrigued for, right? You're going to have Joshua Ruiz, the current U.S. #1, versus Patrick Kuhn, who you see here on the screen, your defending champion from Leon High School. Last year, Kuhn won this race in 14:50, and that was a course record there. You know, amazing performance from him. And you know, this year going into this race, it's a little bit different, right? So you have Ruiz, like I mentioned, the Bellin Jesuit senior, current leader for boys 5K. He ran 14:38 at the Southern Showcase a couple weeks ago. And he also is part of that, you know, really stellar Bellin Jesuit team, who's one of the top teams in the nation. And now, you know, you're going against the defending champion in Kuhn, right? He just committed to Stanford, so, you know, top tier athlete. You know, looking at what he's done so far this season, it's been relatively quiet from him. You know, he's only ran a few times, has a season best of 15:39. But he's returning to this really fast course where, you know, again, he knows what it takes to win there. So I think really the question is, actually multiple questions.
What are the multiple questions here?
Now that Ruiz is in this whole other realm, like, of his talent, going up against someone like Kuhn, like, who's going to come out on top? What's the strategy going to be like there?
Yeah.
And then 2, will this record, the meet record, or course record, be threatened again?
Oh, gosh. Okay, hang on.
Those are my 2 questions.
Okay, why don't you answer, what was your first question again?
You know, now that Ruiz is, you know, at this, like, huge, monumental part of his career.
Yes.
Going up against someone like Kuhn, like, what's the strategy going to be? I'm just... You don't know?
I'm trying to think how I would approach this, right? Like, if I'm lining up against Patrick Kuhn, the defending champion here, right? And just looking, I'm also looking at Josh's resume. Like, he finished 4th in this race last year. I'm assuming, and he clocked 15:16 there, 8th the year before. So he is a veteran to the course. So I guess my first question was, has Josh competed on this course, and to know what to kind of expect. If I were him, this is just me personally, I'm someone that likes to observe and watch. I would want to be within striking distance of Patrick Kuhn, but have Patrick Kuhn do all the work.
I can see that way, but I can also see...
Or do you go out and make Patrick Kuhn chase you?
See, that's the other thing that I wonder, maybe, because, like, obviously we saw in that video how Patrick Kuhn absolutely, like, dominated this whole race the entire time last year. Maybe you take the approach of, hey, I'm going to go out in, you know, something that I know is controllable, but, you know, put the pressure on him to be like, oh, hey, I got to chase that guy. He's, you know, current U.S. #1 5K. I got to chase him down. Like, that could shock Kuhn, I think, maybe a little bit, but... I'm also all for the stalking and, like, waiting.
But here's the thing. Patrick Kuhn has won this twice in a row. Like, he's going for a 3-peat. So how else do you take down this guy?
I think Josh has the most momentum going into this race, personally.
Okay. So you think he's going to go out and have Patrick Kuhn chase him?
I don't know if that's what he's going to do, but I think that could be a tactic.
That could be a tactic. There's one of 2 ways this can go.
There's a lot of things that could happen, so I'm really excited to see how it plays out.
For me, I'm staying behind Patrick Kuhn.
Yeah. Okay.
And I'm gonna, like, let it rip.
I think that's a fair tactic.
I'm gonna let it rip.
Okay.
Toward the end, like, last mile, almost 1K. Like, I'm just gonna go into a whole nother gear. So, okay, that was your first question. What was the second question?
Will this course record go down again? 14:50 last year set by Patrick Kuhn. Will it go down?
I'm very optimistic, and I'm someone that's like, yes to the record, so I'm saying yes.
I'm going to say yes, too, because, like, obviously, you know, you have the course record holder here in this race, but he's going to be really pushed this year, I think, by Ruiz. You know, he's in a different level right now, so I think we could see something special.
All right, sub 450. 14:49
yes,
or
14:49.
faster is going to be the goal for this FSU Invitational on the boys' side. Now, I'm going to switch gears and talk about the ladies because this, for me, I think is the most interesting race. I need y'all to keep your eyes out for Annabella Tomasic, and this is the reason why. I feel like she has the potential to win this race, and she's not a freshman, she's not a sophomore, she's not a junior, she's not a senior. You're right, she's a middle schooler, and she's not an 8th grader either. She is a 7th grader going into this race and has the opportunity to take the title. She goes to Lake Highland Prep out in Orlando. And to kind of paint this vision of, you're probably thinking, Liv, what on earth are you talking about? This 7th grader winning this title, let me just paint this vision for you. We all know Eliana Black.
Yes,
now goes to IMG Academy. Eliana Black is very talented. Like, she has an incredible resume. Back when Annabella was in 5th grade, she won the FLYRA Middle School State Championships. Eliana was in that race, and she was an 8th grader, and Annabella won that race. Last year, as a 6th grader, Annabella set the course record of 10:19 for 3K and won that title by nearly a minute. So the fact that this 7th grader is like pushing waves right now is absolutely remarkable. However, it's not going to be an easy feat. She's going to have to face Addison Dempsey of Cardinal Mooney, another athlete from Florida, and also she's going to have Mackenzie Delisle of Bishop Verrett. And this is another storyline in its own. Addison Dempsey is ranked number 1 in the state of Florida with a 17:25K. The next fastest time is actually Annabella Tomasic. And then the 3rd fastest athlete is Mackenzie. So you have the fastest, 2nd fastest, and 3rd fastest in the state of Florida lining up and going for this title. Annabella clocked a 17:41 already, so this is where we're at.
It's going to be legit. All I have to say is I will be tuned in.
What?
On Saturday.
What?
I will be tuned in watching this. Let's just put it that way.
This is going to be wild.
Yes.
So keep your eyes out for the 7th grader, Annabella Tomasic from Lake Highland Prep.
Yep.
We already know this is a fast course, and Annabella is in a whole nother wheelhouse. She's going to get pushed by Addison Dempsey and also the 3rd fastest competitor, Mackenzie. So it's going to be a great meet on both sides, which is really, which I'm all for it, because sometimes we see the boys' races are more dominant or the girls' races. So the fact that we have 2 storylines going into our National Meet of the Week is just fantastic. So again, you guys already know, you're here watching on the line. Make sure you like, subscribe, give us a review, Spotify, Apple TV, Apple Music, wherever you listen to your podcast. We want to know your thoughts. Let us know what you think about this podcast, and also stay tuned to the site for all the coverage. It's
a huge weekend. I have to say, we have 4 live meets going on this weekend. FSU pre-state.
Yes.
You're going to have Live in Lieu, the McQuaid Invite, and then Pat Patton. So there's going to be a lot of cross-country action live for you guys to tune into. So please do it. You will not be disappointed.
You will not be disappointed. Stay tuned to the site for everything. Ashley, thank you so much as always, and we will see you guys next week.